Alright, here's the second part. Yeah, I know it looks stupid of me putting his picture up, blocking InfoWars out, but I'm trying to make sure this video gets out. And the algorithm will slow it down. I don't know how it actually works. I'm not an editor, never edited videos before yesterday, so I know it looks stupid. Just hang in there with me, trying to do the best I can.
When I say distributed, I mean wallets that are including a distributed exchange. Instead of having an exchange which is located in one country with massive servers, that exchange is now distributed among millions of users of the cryptocurrency. So you cannot take it down. The exchange process itself, if you want to exchange Bitcoin for Ethereum, there is no central exchange. It's done with everybody's wallets communicating simultaneously. It cannot be taken down. It cannot be located. It does not exist in any one location. It is an idea made manifest through millions of people accepting and embracing the idea. So when that happens, give up government. End of story. War over. People won. Government lost.
That's a great idea. Now, in the past, you've talked about the necessity, and we've heard it as well from Kim.com, the necessity to have some kind of a replacement, perhaps, for the internet that would allow us to escape the approaching centralized control that the government's always trying to exercise over this. If something like that were to come up, it would be easy to move the cryptocurrencies over to that exchange as well, wouldn't it? That new internet.
Of course. And there are thousands of people working on this, and it will happen. And the internet itself will then become distributed, starting with local nodes where you're in a town like Lexington, Tennessee, where I am, and everybody in that town has a local internet connection between each other. And then that town will connect to the next town. And then one state connects to the next, and one country connecting to the other. All of them decentralized, no central control, no owners. Nobody is the boss of that internet, and it's coming. We all know it's coming.
That's great. That's, I think, the real hope of humanity. Not that we're ever going to be able to audit the Fed, not that we're ever going to be able to shut down it or central banks, but that we would transcend it with new technology, with new cooperation, as we're doing with Bitcoin, that as the government and as these big multinational corporations like Google and Facebook, these constructs that work with the government, as they start to exercise control, as they start to take away our freedom of speech, our freedom to exchange information with other people, that we have these new constructs that come about that will replace the old DARPA-designed internet that we have, that the government has been working on decades to try to take it down.
Yes.
All right, we got to take a quick break. Yeah, we got to take a quick break. We're going to be right back. We're talking to John McAfee. Hey, folks, David Knight, and we're talking to John McAfee about cryptocurrencies. And we're going to talk about some other cryptocurrencies besides Bitcoin. But before we get to that, John, I want to ask you about one more thing here. And that is something that was brought up in an article on Zero Hedge talking about the fundamental values in terms of a storage of wealth. And by that, they mean people will store values in high denomination paper money. And in the same way, people are storing money in Bitcoin. We see the investment speculation that's going on there, and that's the noise that we see on top of all this. But at the bottom of that is the basic way that you use money, and that is, of course, to buy and sell things, but as a way to store wealth and to transport it to other countries. I have a feeling that a lot of the unrest that we're seeing in a lot of these third world countries, whether it's Zimbabwe or Venezuela or maybe even in Saudi Arabia, a lot of that may be driving people to put their money not in $100 bills that can get quite bulky to move around, but in some cryptocurrencies. And they point out that if you look at the total value of what's out there, they say about $1.1 trillion of $100 bills that are not counterfeit in global circulation. If you add in the counterfeit stuff and everything, you're probably about 1.7 billion. So they look at it and they say, right now, Bitcoin's share of that portable storage of wealth market is about 8%. And all cryptos combined, it's only about 15%. They said if Bitcoin would go to 20,000, they would only be 14% of that market share. If it were to go to 100,000, that would only be 33% of that. So that's an important part of this, isn't it?
It is indeed. And I did factor that into my calculations. Now, let's talk about value. What is the value of a $100 bill? Isn't it just the paper that it's printed on?
That's right.
My company, MGT, is one of the largest Bitcoin miners outside of China. It cost me almost $2,000 to create one Bitcoin.
Wow.
One Bitcoin. That's in electricity costs, management costs, cost of machines, amortized. So I know the value of a Bitcoin because we work hard to create them. So what's the value of one Bitcoin? It's got to be at least what it cost me to create one. What's the value of a $100 bill? 5 cents worth of paper, possibly, and ink.
That's right. So, and a decision by the Federal Reserve Chair to decide, hey, let's print some more of these things. Yeah.
Let's print some more of these things. Yeah. So let's talk. There is real value to cryptocurrencies. It takes work and time, electricity, software, and a lot of intelligence to create one coin. So surely I must think there's value in it, else we would not spend the money to create these coins.
Sure.
So there is inherent value just in the work, the proof of work to create a single coin.
All right, let's talk about some of the other cryptocurrencies, because you're pointing out that this is they have the metaphor of mining because it's really work that has to be done. And when we look at all these wild fluctuations, we understand that on top of the monetary aspects of these cryptocurrencies, there is speculative investment. People like to say, well, the tulip bulb bubble or whatever, or talk about the real estate bubble that we had in the early 2000s. But of course, that was created by who? The Federal Reserve, the government, the banks, and so forth. They don't talk about that too much. They always want to go back to the tulip bubble thing because that's too close. And that shows that they were the ones who created that bubble and burst it. Let's talk about the other cryptocurrencies, because when you talk about the fact that we have a limit to the number of Bitcoins, 21 million, 4 of them have disappeared, so that leaves us 17 million of those. The other part that would come in terms of, we're not going to be able to have any more of that in terms of gold, but we could have other cryptocurrencies. How does that work into the whole calculation here?
Well, there are thousands of cryptocurrencies now, literally thousands. The top are things like Ethereum, Litecoin, Monero. Of those, Monero is the one that needs to be watched the closest. And here is why. The dark web is where Bitcoin first got its use. If you wanted to hire a hitman to buy illegal drugs, to get a live tiger from the jungles of Asia, you would pay in Bitcoins, all right? Now it's 100% Monero. Why? Because Bitcoin can be unwound with enough computing power and enough will. Like if the FBI wanted to, they could find out who a person was in the specific transaction.
That's right. Go back to blockchain. They could go all the way back to when you first got into the system. Yeah.
Yes. But with Monero, it is impossible. Utterly impossible. It is completely anonymous and completely private. So that is why in the dark web, everybody's using Monero. But what I have discovered is what starts in the dark web in terms of cryptocurrencies leaks out into the world of light, the world of above board business. Because all people, I believe, all people would like to have anonymity and privacy in terms of their financial transactions. And if I'm right, then Monero bears watching very closely.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you look at what's happening now. You have Coinbase and others now require that you send them pictures of your driver's license and so forth. So we're getting the government regulations in that way into the back door. And I think you're absolutely right. There's a lot of value, and people are realizing the value of privacy and anonymity, whether or not they're involved in anything that the government wants to do. And I think that's why they came after Ross Ulbricht and Silk Road so heavily. The coins, I just saw an article from Free Thought Project, the coins that they stole from Ross Ulbricht and Silk Road are now worth $1.74 billion. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, it is. And they did steal them. They did steal them. And Ross Ulbricht is a special case. I do not think that that's going to happen again, because Bitcoin has now almost universally been accepted as, okay, it's above board, it's open, it is a currency, people are using it, and you're not going to stop it. Monero,
Yes.
when Monero hits the light, and it has in many cases, we're going to have a serious problem with governments, because there's nothing that a government can ever do to determine who is doing what. And this scares governments, obviously. It does
That's
not scare
interesting.
me. I think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
That's great. That's great. Well, and you know, the only thing that I would be concerned about, and I hope it does succeed, I see them coming after people like Ross Ulbricht. I see them coming after people like Kim.com, just like they came after Martha Stewart or Michael Flynn. They get somebody that they want to punish for political reasons, or they want to make an example of, and that's the key thing there. So, so Monero is what you're looking at now as most optimistic in terms of cryptocurrencies, because it provides a different level of anonymity that they cannot walk back like they can walk back the blockchain on Bitcoin. Is that correct?
That's correct. And if Bitcoin does have a competitor, or will have, it will be Monero.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, that's valuable information that people can take to the bank. You know, one of the things that they were talking about in this Free Thought Project, and I'm sure you would appreciate this as well, John McAfee, they were saying that when you look at what was
Legislation does not work when it reaches the point of what you want to do with your own body.
That's right. Well, I think this has been a very hopeful interview. I think anybody who is of a liberty mindset, a libertarian orientation, who wants to see privacy, who wants to see anonymity, who wants to be able to escape these oppressive control structures that are centralized, and as they're trying to now increase their control over our free speech, our ability to pass information along, all these things, Bitcoin, alternative web structures, that is the wave of the future. And that is, I think, the greatest, most hopeful thing that I see that's developing right now.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. It's been very interesting talking to you, and thank you for joining us.
All right, that's the end of that. I was playing musical chair with the captures and images, trying to get them to block out that stuff. I know it looks like crap, but the information is what matters anyway. I have another video like this, but I'm sure people aren't going to want to watch this, but I'm going to upload this anyway and see what happens. If you want me to make another one with another interview of McAfee, let me know in the comments. Thank you.